Hello. There we go. It's on. It's working. All right. Hello, everyone. It's so great to see so many people here joining my focus session here today. I hope that you've been enjoying the conference so far. My name is Frida Wernlund. I work at Visma as head of product analytics. And I'm very honored to be here to talk to you about two things that I'm very happy to be working with every day, data and AI. And specifically, I want to talk to you about how a large organization like Visma aims to make data accessible for everyone, and how we're building AI agents internally in order to achieve this. Before I begin, I want to take you back to 5 years ago. This is me. I was just finishing up my studies in industrial engineering and management here in Stockholm at KTH. If anyone in the audience also studied at KTH, you probably recognize the student overall and the university hat. I see some people nodding, nice. And at this time, I had just spent around 4 months writing my master's thesis, which ended up being 95 pages long. And it's absolutely crazy for me to think back to this time and realize that I wrote this thesis all by myself. There was no AI assistants, co-pilots, LLMs out there to help me research, summarize, write text, fix sources, took forever. And this made me reflect upon how fundamentally different we complete tasks today compared to just 5 years ago. When I graduated, ChatGPT hadn't been launched yet, and there wasn't yet this huge hype and focus on AI. Even though my specialization is in applied mathematics, I think I have maximum one course that even touches upon the topic. And in these past 5 years, we've gone from this world where ChatGPT didn't even exist to a reality where I'm hardly writing my own Slack messages, emails. I go to work every morning, and the first thing that hits me is updates from 3 different agents that have been that are telling me what I need to know to complete my working day in the best possible way. And together with my team, I'm building an agentic analytics platform and talking about concepts that hardly even existed just 1 year ago. This pace that we're seeing is incredible. It brings so much opportunity, but it also brings a lot of complexity and uncertainty. And in my talk today, I want to recognize that it is genuinely hard to keep up with this pace. New models, new frameworks, new tools are being launched every single week. But I also hope to inspire you to see this pace as an opportunity and to think about the bottlenecks that you have in your work or in your role today, and to try out all of the tools out there to solve your problems. And if the perfect tool isn't out there yet, maybe I can even inspire you to build your own product in the same way as I am, together with the rest of my team in Visma. Here's what I want to talk to you about today. First, I want to touch upon the ongoing transformation that we're seeing, especially in product development. And I want to give you this context before going into the specific tool that we're building. Second, I want to talk about data and why we need to democratize it in order to drive this transformation, and also how we're approaching this. And lastly, I want you to walk away with some practical tips on what to think about if designing your own agentic product, or even just interacting with agents in general. But first, I want to give some quick context on Visma. Visma is one of Europe's largest and fastest growing software development companies. And our mission is to simplify and automate complex business processes. We build mission-critical software within accounting, payroll, financial management, and we do it for all types of customers, everything from entrepreneurs starting their very first business to the public sector. And we want to handle these processes so that our customers can focus on what they do best and delivering value to their own customers. Visma has grown into over 15,000 employees across 165 companies in 28 markets. And together, all of our products serve as many as 2.4 million customers. And I just saw the Q1 release this morning that it's now 2.5 million customers. And I'm very proud to work at a tech company that prioritizes diversity in so many different ways. As many as 42% of our colleagues are women, and over 6% of our leaders are also women. So there's a lot of fantastic role models across the group that inspire me and my colleagues here today. These numbers put us in the top 5% of the tech industry, which is also really fantastic to be a part of. I also very quickly want to show you how Visma is organized. This also gives you a little bit of context to what I'm going to dive into later. At the center, we have our Visma companies, our 165 companies that build, sell, and support our software. Around these companies, we have 3 supporting layers. We have segment support, local support, and then lastly, we have group-wide services. And these services support Visma companies with frameworks, tooling, best practices, competence in lots of different areas. So everything from security to operational excellence to product development. And my team is a part of product development. So this means that everything that we do and everything that we build in my team, we do at scale to support Visma companies in the best possible way. I want to start by sharing with how the AI transformation looks like at Visma. We've divided this transformation into 4 parts, and something that I think is really cool is that we have dedicated teams that are responsible for driving these transformations. So this is not just something we're talking about, we're also organizing ourselves after the ongoing developments. And to briefly take you through each one, AI native products is all about creating customer value through AI. The software that we're building is becoming more and more agentic, meaning that it no longer just supports our customers, but it's actually doing the work for them. AI native growth functions is all about making every function around product development more efficient, but without losing their strong customer focus. AI native workforce is about future-proofing our employees overall. So we want everyone across the organization to be using AI in daily assistance of their core tasks, regardless if this is writing, researching, or coding. And lastly, we have AI native product development, the transformation that I'm a part of. And the focus has, as many of you know, been on engineering during these past few years, making sure that all development teams have the AI tools out there to help them write, review, and ship code. But the direction that we're going in is all about empowering the entire product team. So also making designers, discovery, product management, everyone empowered by AI. If we briefly zoom into AI native product development and what this actually means in practice, today we're changing how we're developing products. We're moving from these long sequential cycles that could take weeks, maybe even months, to these faster, more experimental loops that are now working in days. We're delegating more and more work to agents. This doesn't mean we're replacing engineers or product managers. It means that we're giving the AI collaborators that they need to do their work more efficiently. And we're running much more experiments and prototypes today compared to just a few years ago. And we're doing this because the cost of testing ideas has dropped dramatically in just the past year. These 3 things ultimately help us build better products that suit our customer needs even better, and also the market in general, and we're doing it faster than ever before. I also briefly want to show you Visma's product development framework and how it's looked like the last couple of years. These are the fundamental 6 steps of building products. First, understanding your users and their problems. Define your scope and desired outcome. Then we have prototyping, building, validating that what we actually built solves the problem that we defined in the first step. And lastly, measuring if we succeeded with reaching the outcome we wanted to reach. And I'm just briefly showing you this because I want you to see what this process looks like before we put a bunch of AI on top of it. Fast forward to today, this is the framework that we use when we talk about AI native product development in Visma. As you might notice, this loop is very similar to the one that you saw on the previous slide, but it's transformed. We now have 4 phases, each heavily accelerated by AI. The first phase, Sense, is all about continuous discovery. So product teams are using AI tools to gather, synthesize all types of data, from customer feedback, usage data, market trends, all in real time. And we do it so that we can move faster from first idea to prototype. Shape is all about prototyping, design, and experimentation. And here we're really looking to see more and more product experiments going on across Visma. And the result of more experiments is knowing what actually is working for our users so that we can ship more confidently in the next step. Build is all about engineering. AI agents are handling a lot of our development tasks, everything from code review, testing, to actual implementation. And in Visma, we're already seeing today that the development teams out there that are using AI actively every single day are shipping 3 times more code and have shorter resolution times than the teams that are using AI once in a while. And this is an effect we, of course, see will increase even more in the next coming years. And in the last phase, we have optimize. This is post-launch of a new feature, a new release. And this phase is all about validating features and iterating to make sure that what we actually release creates the expected value. And as you see, the loop itself, very similar, but amplified. And all of these things are moving faster than ever before. I want to highlight what every single one of these phases heavily depends on: feedback and data. Real-time, accessible, and trustworthy data. Without this foundation, this loop doesn't run, and all of the 10x claims that we had on the previous slide are unachievable. So this is the problem that we have to solve to truly be able to drive the transformation in AI native product development and in all of the other AI transformations that we're seeing as well. So how do we do this? How do we democratize data in a complex landscape like Visma? There are a few key challenges that we have to take into consideration and that we also have to solve. In Visma, we have central data storage containing thousands of data sets across all of our 165 Visma companies. The data exists, that's not the problem, but it's located in one place and we have to be extremely careful when it comes to security and access management. The second challenge that we're still seeing today, and similar to the last couple of years, a lot of departments' roles still don't have the time, the technical skills to manually retrieve the insights. So we're still seeing data silos, and data is still something that the data team will take care of that. It's not being used in the rest of the organization. And the goal that we want to achieve is quite clear. We want to democratize live data access. So this doesn't mean downloading CSV files from your data warehouse and putting into an LLM. We want live, real-time data to be accessible at the tip of everyone's fingers. So that they can interact with it through conversation rather than code. And based on these challenges, we formulated some non-negotiable requirements. Since we store a lot of personal data and a lot of our companies operate within the EU, all of our processing, of course, also needs to be completely within the EU. And you would be surprised, or maybe not surprised, but a lot of companies charge a lot of money to be able to guarantee this. Second, missing the clicker. Secondly, governance and security is extremely important. And we have to have full control over what data that actually gets exposed to AI and not. And this is because some data sets are fine to expose, whereas others have strict policy that this cannot be consumed by AI. So we need to have this control, and we need to know what constraints we have across all of our Visma companies. The last requirement is that we need something that's super easy to work with for this to work at scale. We need a plug-and-play solution where technical setups and administrative challenges doesn't hinder our users from actually adopting the platform. After looking and testing a lot of third-party solutions, because there are a lot out there, definitely, we decided that there wasn't one perfect solution that works for the complex landscape that we have in Visma. So we decided that if we can't buy it, let's build it. And this decision to build ourselves wasn't an easy one to make. It's a bet that we're making. Who knows what solutions are out there in 1 year, even 6 months' time. But at the same time, we decided that we cannot afford to wait. If we want to be leaders in this transformation, we need to make data accessible, and we need to do it now. All right, so with that, say hello to our internal multi-agent analytics solution that's built specifically for the Visma ecosystem, and we call it DataGPT. DataGPT is right now made up out of 3 layers. We of course have our interface, and this is basically a chatbot. Users interact with in the same way as they would interact with any other AI assistant. So the user doesn't need to know SQL, the user doesn't have to have expertise on the data that they're interacting with. We have our engine. We use Google Gemini together with an agent orchestration. And this means that when the question or the prompt arrives, the engine itself doesn't try to answer the question, but it breaks down the question and sends parts of the question to different specialist sub-agents. So each sub-agent is an expert on one specific type of task or one specific type of data. And next, the system is designed to continuously learn about the data that we have stored through user interactions. And this is really important in our context because a lot of the data sets that we have, of course, look very similar. We just have it 165 times for many different Visma companies. So this means that our AI gets smarter the more and more users that interact with it. And I will soon come back and dive a little bit deeper on the engine part. But first, I just also want to give you a sneak peek of the product. Yes, so in the background, you'll see this running while I talk. The interface is designed to feel very similar. It looks pretty much like any AI assistant that you're already used to. But the user logs in to our platform and does it with our internal Visma authentication. So it's very seamless. You don't have to create an account, nothing like that. You just log in and you see which data that you have accessible. The first step is then for the user to select the specific data that they want to explore. And in this scenario, we're looking at user behavior and feedback data for one specific Visma company. In the example, the user starts with a very simple prompt. They ask for a summary of complaints from all feedback data that we've gotten in our product from the last 6 months. As you can see, the AI then returns with the most common themes. It highlights the most critical pain points, and it also ranks these in terms of importance. But it goes beyond just summarizing text. As a user, you can then pivot to a little bit more strategic questions by asking, what product opportunities do we have in our products based on these complaints from our users? The AI then categorizes opportunities into 2 different buckets, both short-term quick wins and then long-term more strategic initiatives. And to take it one step further, you can also ask about the expected impact of these opportunities. This whole scenario, to go from summarizing thousands of feedback comments from the past 6 months to having a list of what to prioritize next in product development, took about 3.5 minutes. So all of a sudden, this data is in the hands of the user faster than ever before. And in this concrete example, you're seeing the tool act as pretty much a product discovery co-pilot or a product management co-pilot. But depending on the scope of data that you select, it can also be many different things. It could be your marketing assistant or your sales co-pilot. So this is just a sneak peek of one scenario that's possible. So what's actually happening here behind this chat window? I quickly also want to take the opportunity to explain how agents are actually working together here. In our platform, in DataGPT, and in most well-designed agentic systems, there's a clear hierarchy. So at the top, you have an orchestrator, which you can kind of think of as a manager. It, in our case, receives the user's question, understands what's actually being asked, and then breaks this down into different subtasks, which it then delegates to one of our specialist agents. In DataGPT, these are 3 product-related agents that are specifically specialized on product development questions. We first of all have our feedback agent, which is basically our world-class expert on what users are saying about Visma's products. So the feedback agent's job is only things related to product net promoter score, customer effort score, customer satisfaction score, and comments coming in through these product surveys. We then have our usage agent. It specifically reasons around user behavior and what the users are actually doing inside of our product. And it also pulls our metrics from a semantic layer that we have. And last, we have a context agent. This is actually not released yet, but we're working on it. And its job is to fetch relevant product information that's relevant to the question that's being asked. So this might be, what type of product is it? Is it an accounting product, payroll product, or what targets do we have in product development in the coming years? Do we want to reach 40% adoption of this new feature we're releasing? That information could be super helpful to answer the user's prompt. As you can see, the task of each of these agents is super clear. And this is really important so that the agents don't end up fighting about who is actually the right agent to solve a given task. And you can also have several layers of agents, of course. You don't have to have just 2. But it's also super important to test this out in practice and find a hierarchy that works for you. The more layers and the more agents that you introduce, the more complex the system becomes. I also want to take this opportunity to briefly show you where this agentic structure from the previous slides fits into our entire architecture in case someone is working on something similar. On the far left here, we have data storage. This is where our data is stored. And right now we have 2 key data sources in our platform. Visma Data Lake is storing all types of data from internal systems that we use in Visma, so everything from CRM systems, ERPs, financial management systems, so on. Product analytics, which I've been talking mostly about, is what my team works with, and we store feedback and user behavior data. And just to give you a sense of scale and of the data that we have, in 2025, we collected 1.4 million feedback scores across all of our Visma products and 28 billion user actions throughout our products. So there's a lot of data in there to make sense of. Next, we have our semantic layer, and this is the layer where you can add business context into your data. For our specific case in product analytics, this is where we translate our raw data into meaningful product metrics. And this is important in our situation because we don't want to give the AI the power to define our metrics for them. We want to control what does an active user mean, or how do we define feature adoption, how do we calculate product net promoter score. We don't want to give that power to the reasoning layer. And this might be more or less relevant depending on the type of data that you're working with, but for our product metrics, this was super important. We have BigQuery. This is our data warehouse in Visma. And in the next 2 layers is where our agentic structure from the previous slide sits. And here I'm just showing a few examples of our specialist agents, but we're building this so that we can be really flexible, that when we need to add more and more specialist agents, we can do so without impacting what we already have in place. So in the future, we might be having marketing agents, HR agents, procurement agents that are specialists on that specific type of data source. And lastly, we of course have the user interface, which is where the user actually interacts with the data. So this is just to show the architecture of what we're building. What does this actually change in practice? I want to make it a little bit more concrete for 3 different user types that might be looking to interact with product analytics data. For a product manager, the reality used to be that you had to wait at least 3 days, maybe even a week, maybe even a quarter for a product analyst to pull usage data every time you wanted to know how your users are interacting with a new feature. Now this information is just one prompt away, and you have this product discovery copilot at the tip of your fingers to spar with at any time, and you can be guaranteed correct metrics because we have that built into our semantic layer. For customer success, you might be finding out today that your customer is churning during that very churn call that you have, but today, we're making this data closer to customer success departments as well, something that's been, at least for us, a little bit hidden inside of product development. So now customer success managers can proactively look into how my specific customer is doing compared to the customer base overall. And for commercial teams, you might be building your pitches based on what you think that the potential customer is most interested in. But now you can come into your pitch calls more prepared than ever, with concrete examples from customers in a similar industry size are getting these value gains from our product. I also want to close off this section by bringing it back to the framework that we started with and show you how DataGPT fits into this framework and how we're using it to drive the transformation towards AI native product development. In Sense, Shape, and Optimize, we've identified a few key use cases that we want to start with solving so that we make sure that DataGPT is in line with this overall transformation. And by starting off with defining this, we can feel confident that as we solve these use cases one by one, we are moving Visma product teams in the right direction that we want them to move. And you might notice that build is empty, and this is because the platform is, of course, less directly involved in this phase, and we're using other tools in Visma to drive the transformation in this phase specifically. Before I wrap up, I want to give you something practical that I hope that you can take with you today and also apply in your own work. And regardless if you're building an agentic analytics platform like we are, if you are, please come find me. I want to talk after. But if you're just looking to optimize your own workflows or interacting with agents for the first time, there's 4 main things that I think you should not miss to think about. Before going into those 4 things, I want to highlight a very obvious step 0 here. What workflow are you actually looking to optimize, or what's the problem that you're trying to solve? And this sounds very simple and it sounds obvious, but it's so common to jump straight into what should my agent be doing before taking the time to think about what is the actual pain that we're trying to solve. For our team, when we started talking about this, we wanted to solve the problem of letting any employee in Visma ask product analytics related questions in plain English and to get back a reliable data-backed answer that they knew was correct, and to do it under a minute or 2 minutes. The first key decision to think about is scope. What does the agent do? And just as important, what does the agent not do? So start very narrow and make sure that your agent can start by handling that problem or that task first. If your workflow then becomes more complex, or if you need to expand with more jobs to be done, think about if your agent gets a promotion and now can handle more tasks, or do you need to introduce a second agent into the system? And if you do that, make sure that they can collaborate with one another, so you're not just so that they don't end up fighting about tasks. And as I talked about already, in our project, we scope down agents to specific data or specific domain. The next thing to think about is where do we want to involve our humans in the workflow that we're trying to optimize. Defining when humans need to be involved in the process, but also defining how they need to be involved. In some cases, it might be that you just need to notify through a Slack notification, this has been completed. Or in other cases, it might be that the human actually needs to make a decision in order for the workflow to keep going. For us, we keep the user or the human involved by showing exactly where the data is coming from, how metrics are calculated, or specific SQL queries. And we do this as a deliberate product design question in order to gain trust from our users. Because we know how hard it is to gain trust when using AI in analytics. There's still a lot of skepticism out there, which is good. You should be. But so we work very hard with transparency in every single product design decision that we make. Next, we have guardrails, and this is also really important. What can the agent access? What can it say? What can it do? And here you really need to start by defining what are potential failure behaviors that the agent might have, and how severe are these behaviors. Based on the severity of the risks that you're seeing, make relevant constraints and make sure that you implement them in a good way. For DataGPT, we have, of course, some severe risks when it comes to access management. And so there we have really strict constraints in place so that there's no way that user from Visma company A gets access to Visma company B's data. That won't be possible because we have those guardrails set. For smaller risks, like metric decisions, we might have a little bit less guardrails in place because the risks of that aren't as severe. And lastly, we have evals. And before you start building your agent, define what does actually success look like and how will we know if what we're building is working. And that's both for the agent itself, but for also the product as a whole. For DataGPT, we don't just want to know if our platform is being used and how often our users are coming back, but we want to measure user intent, meaning how accurately are we able to give the user what they were asking for. And this is quite tricky, I will be honest, and we try to look at this from a number of different perspectives. We look at correctness. Are the answers that we provide correct? Trust. Do people trust the answers enough to actually act on them? And satisfaction. Are users satisfied with the response that they're getting? By combining these three things together, we're getting closer to understanding if we're able to meet our users' intent in using our product. This is the full framework with at least some initial decisions to think about when starting up your AI projects, regardless of the bottleneck that you're trying to solve or the scope that you're working with. It can be data, but it can also be many other things. With that, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my session today. And I'm happy to open up to any questions. And you can also come find me at Visma's booth after this session if you want to chat with me or any of my other colleagues. Thank you.